Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome back down in the basement. It's still cool. We're heading into fall, and I was thinking scotch or maybe some big bourbons. And then yesterday I saw on the shelf the latest release of Alberta Premium Cask Strength Rye. You guys know I'm a sucker for rye. You've probably heard of this bottle, or at least the first batch. And so I thought, I better buy it. And then I was going to open it with you, and then it was Friday night, and I thought, I'm going to sneak a little taste. So this is still very, very early thoughts, but I'll talk it, I'll nose it, we'll share a little bit. I will compare it with batch one. I still have some batch one. This is Alberta Premium Cask Strength Rye. It's the third batch, and you know that because it's 63.7%. So pour a little rye. When we come back, let's talk some cask strength 100% rye.
3, 4.
Thanks for coming back or staying with me. As I was saying in the opener, we're going to talk a pretty big whiskey. This is Alberta Premium Cask Strength Rye, and it's their third release. You can tell what release you're looking at because of the percentage. The first release, this one over here, batch one, was 65.1%. The second batch, which was widely released, especially in the US, is 66. And this one's the lowest of the three at 63.7%. Now, Alberta Premium or Alberta Distillers, the distilling company, have been making rye and whiskey for a really long time, I think since the 40s. And so they've kind of been a bulk distributor. They make good rye, but then they often, train load it out to other people to age and release. But now I think they're paying attention, and this annual cask strength release is one of those bottles to stay connected to. You've probably heard of Alberta Premium Cask Strength because of the first release. This one, Jim Murray, when it came out, said it was his whiskey of the year, which is really high praise. But whether you appreciate him and his taste palette and what he does or not, this is definitely a quality whiskey. This one, well, it's not my first thoughts. I wanted to open it with you, but I did crack it yesterday, but it's really close to my first thoughts. We're really just talking almost neck pour. Let's get into the whiskey and see what we got on this batch 3. Hopefully you got some rye or one of the batches to sip along. I find this nose kind of, sweet, brown sugar, vanilla. There's a light, rich fruitiness to it. There's a little bit of apple, but it's richer. It's thicker than that. It's almost, I don't know, it's almost a little bit banana, which is not my favorite nose in whiskey, but something like that. I guess I'll do it all alone, and then I'll compare it to the 65, the first batch. So I've got a nice, sweet, honeyed nose, sugars, maple sugars, a little bit of cola, a little bit of cherry. Nice. Singes a bit if you go in deep. I mean, it's still 63.7. Let's try it on the palate. Cheers. That is tasty. Sure, it's hot. And hot, then the spicing comes. So we got crackback pepper, full-on cinnamon. Oaking is coming now in that early finish. And the fruiting is now just a nice fruit, kind of a cut apple for me, apple blossom, cherry blossom, somewhere in there. Little bit of herbalness, but not a lot. This is not a big grassy rye. Really tastes more like bourbon, even not bourbon. It's totally a rye. But when I think of it, it's got some of that caramelized sugars and vanillas that I really think of with bourbon. And a little less herbal grass cut, that kind of thing. But nice and peppery, lots of spice. That is tasty. I'm going to come back with water once I do some comparison. So, early thoughts, this is great. Like, really good. Memory, I don't have the 66 where I do all three across here. It's better than the 66 for me. There's a little less ethanol, a little more fruiting, a little more caramel, like all of it, really. I think this is just a better pick than that 66 was. And if I was pushed to a star rating, now I'm really only maybe 3 grams in. I'm happy to say it's a 4-star whiskey. Now, it's big and it's bold, and if you don't like cracked pepper and spicy rye, and it's actually pretty drying on the palate. If that doesn't kind of grab your attention, then pass it along. But if you're a cask strength or a barrel proof person and you like rye and you like Thai chili, spicy, dark fruiting, I think it's worth a look. Okay, let's do some comparisons. So this one, as I said, is batch 1, 65.1%. Now this bottle has been open for a long time. Like, it's getting open so long that it's starting to be less of a good idea to keep it around for comparison and more like you should have some friends over and take this one out. Much softer on the nose, more apple pie than just apple, right? So we've got that cooked nature, that creamy nature. Spicing is still playing in that, but lighter cinnamon, not as fresh. Let's do a direct nose comparison with the new one, batch 3. Yeah, now this is, more vanilla, more floral, higher sweetness, confectionery sugar. Let's try the palate of batch 1. That's still good in the flavor. It's very rich. It's layered. It's darker cherry, leather cherry, apple skin, perky with that black cracked pepper, but a little clove or a little savory. Nothing wrong with the palate of that first one. One of my favorites. Direct comparison to the new batch. That's tasty. Now I'm getting a little bit of bitterness, a little bit of, a little more ethanol bloom, a little more emptiness, the artificial nature on the cola I was getting earlier. But very nicely drying, actually. It's cleaning up nice. The longer finish, the drying finish brings me some nice oak notes. I think I better try them with water. Right now, I'm drawn to the nose of the new batch 3. Could be that it's a fresher bottle. Palate's a bit of a back and forth. Kind of think this, if you're drinking it neat, is actually a little nicer, but the bottle's really rested. So a pretty tough call. Let's try some water. Okay, we've added a pretty good amount of water because both of them can stand up to it. Let it sit a little bit. Let's see the new one with water. Now I am getting a little bit of that, cut alfalfa grass note, but maybe lemongrass. So I'm getting a little bit of that on the nose. It is a little sharper on the nose, a little bit of banana. I'm not running after banana, but there's a little bit of that in there. The first batch, this is softer, darker, richer. Almost like leather's not quite the right word, but it's a darker fruit. It's not quite prune, but like I'm trying to chase that, like when you the fruit's older and something like that. Dried apple rings, Yeah. So kind of like the nose a little better with water. The first one, we'll try the palate of the new guy. Well, it's easier to sip. Slight bit of nut, a little bit of peanut, a little bit of tartness, still drawing on the finish. Easier to sip and enjoy. Original with water. So good. Rich, creamy, caramelized brown sugars, cooked cinnamon. Really nice palate. Very interesting comparison. As I shared earlier, I'm liking batch 3 more than batch 2. Hard to say which one I like here. I think the nose of batch 3 is actually more interesting. I'm drawn to it. It's got quite a bit of character. A couple of flaws in the palate. Could be this needs to be open a little bit longer. This one, very rich, nice dark flavors in the palate. but it's been open really long, which could be why the nose is coming down. I'd take either. If you're not a rye person, neither of these would be the bottle that I would say, hey, you should try some rye, and then pour you this. I just think these are both very bold, very spicy, big ryes. However, if you like barrel proof or cask strength whiskey, you like rye, it's really worth your time to find one and try it. I paid, sitting on the shelf, no specials, just because I saw it. I had bought it right away. $68 in my market. That's Canadian. I think for the proof and for the flavors, that is just really, I would recommend buying it, even if it's not going to be your favorite rye. If you're a rye person, I think you're going to enjoy it. Thanks for being with me down here again in the basement. One day I'll clean up what's behind me and figure out my audio. That's been a bit of a challenge, but I do appreciate taking a moment with you. Hope you're having a good weekend, and I hope I can see you once more yet on Sunday. You take care.